guys, Stuart, Tomlinson, Warrior Collective. I hope you're well. Back once again, Inside Chat. I'm absolutely over the moon to announce today's guest is none other than top UK martial artist and world-renowned stunt performer, fight choreographer. The list is endless. And one of my favorite people in the world to speak to, Buster Reeves. Buster, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me on your show. It's awesome, like watching it come through and then like actually being on it. It's great. Thank you.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, and like I've just said, quickly becoming one of my favorite people in the world to speak to. Even though, going back actually for everyone, Buster is from an area not far from me in the north of England, and yet somehow we managed never to cross paths. I've got no idea why, because our backgrounds are very similar and the area is very similar, so I've just got no idea. But obviously, since we've made that connection, I have really enjoyed every time we get the opportunity to speak. So it is amazing to have you on. So for everyone listening then, obviously I can wax on about how amazing you are. When did you get started in martial arts? And obviously I've just kind of referred to the fact you're from the north of England. Whereabouts was it that you kind of grew up?
I grew up in a town just over the hill from you in Huddersfield. Born and bred, strong in arm, thick in head, as they say. And I started out in, it's the usual case. I woke up one morning to Enter the Dragon and stuff like that, and then, Bruce Lee doing his thing, and when O'Hara and he does the backward somersault kick, and I'm like, I want to be able to do that. That's awesome. So pestered my mum and dad, can I do martial arts? Can I do it? Now, my dad was a pro football player, only for a small league team, but so my dad was like secretly hoping I'd get into football, but I had other things in mind for the use of my feet and legs, and I was pestering, can I do martial art? Can I do karate? Can I do karate? And they're like, nope. So then it wasn't until one of the kids on the estate through me and my brothers an old Jackie Chan movie called Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, and I actually got chance. I was out at dinner one night with Jackie Chan when I was doing a movie, and I actually got a chance to tell him that was the movie that like technically got me into it, because I just played it on a loop at home, and my parents were like, okay, let's enroll him in a 10-week beginners course at the Huddersfield Sports Centre, which has now been demolished and it's moved somewhere else. And I started there under the tutelage of Neil Kane and Steve Blackburn. And, I did the 10-week beginner course. I did that twice just so, my parents knew that I was committed to it. And from there, we all sat down in a corner, and Neil and Steve, started to give out all these different places. There was Bob and Tony Sykes, there was Phil Robinson, and there was Smiler, who were the local guys around Huddersfield that once you had your basics, they would send you off to them. And my particular style of when I was fighting, they thought I would be more suited to Bob and Tony, because they were the freestyle side of it. Bob had a traditional and Tony under Tiki Donovan, and then they trained under Alfie Lewis, so they were more the freestyle, and that seemed to fit my sort of style of fighting. Even though I did end up training with Phil Robinson for a little bit, I would bounce back and forth, but my main one was Bob and Tony.
So obviously, Bob and Tony, I mean, I know them, and you mentioned Alfie Lewis there and Tiki, so all massive names in the UK on the martial arts scene. So I mean, Bob was the editor of Martial Arts Illustrated for many years, wasn't he? So yeah. When you got started, then obviously, what do you remember about the training back then when you first started?
Yeah, what I remember most about the training back then was cold sports halls, cold floors, no mats, no pads or anything like that, and it was like walking into the bit where they all come on the island and Enter the Dragon. Everyone in white suits, like yeah, stuff like that. Going up and down the halls, but rather than like the traditional side of it, it was the style of kicking that Bob had, and I loved it. I mean, the guy was probably one of the best kickers I've seen. Like, his technique is awesome. So yeah, I just remember it being cold, traveling on the bus, cold, wet days in Yorkshire, and you know, it was I wouldn't change it for the world. It was some of the best training.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bob was well known, Clash of the Titans, and but you competitively, you were very active as well. I mean, before you obviously, and we'll get into that later on, but before you got into the world of stunts and films, you were like really competitive in terms of traveling, competing. When did that competitive side of the martial arts start for you?
Probably literally like 2 weeks into training with Bob and Tony. I was there. It was every Tuesday night, and I remember. I remember. I'm not. I mean, I even know the technique I was doing when Bob asked me to compete, and I remember. I remember training, and Bob, and he was putting on the Yorkshire Open at Slough Leisure Centre, and he just came up. He goes, "Are you fighting this weekend?" And I went, "Yeah." Didn't even think about it. So that was like 2 weeks in. That weekend, I went to compete in the Yorkshire Open, got absolutely smashed by the eventual winner, and that was my intro into competing, and I absolutely loved it. I love the crowds, I love the cheering, I love the atmosphere, I love the tension that you got right when you sat there and your name was called. It was a buzz I've never experienced. I mean, obviously I was like 11 years old, and you know, but it was something that you did on your own rather than with a team. It was like you were accountable. It was all on you. You were just going out and fighting. It was awesome.
Yeah, and you kind of took part in kick jitsu as well, isn't it? Which was kind of, I guess, one of the early aspects of mixed martial arts because it allowed grappling and striking, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah. That came way later under a guy named Tom Mullins and Laurie Glossop. But yeah, kick jitsu, for lack of a better term, was almost like UFC was around. It was still like the banned in 50 states. The rules are there are no rules, you know, that kind of thing. But I think what they were trying to do with that was try and introduce that kind of thing into the mainstream. It was a lot less. How can I be? It was a lot more audience friendly, so to speak. So you could stand up, you could kick and punch, but then once you got into like the grappling side of it, you know, you could throw and you could get to the ground. But what made that different, which I think is because not a lot of people understand grappling and groundwork, it was once you got to the ground, you had X amount of time to put, you know, to get a submission, and then if nothing was happening after a certain amount of time, they would stand you up. But if the referee could see you working for something, then he would be like, he would give the cue for like an extra amount of time to see that you were putting it on. But if it was, so it was more of a dogfight, a scramble, rather than like being a chess match and you just slowly, methodically working your submission. It was like you get in, you kick, punch, you throw, you get to the ground, and then you scramble to get a submission on. And if at the end of like, let's say for a minute, then they would like, all right, boom, stand up. So you had like a minute to get something on, and then at the end of that minute, if nothing happened, you would stand up. But if the referee saw you were working for something and you were getting into position, he would extend it another minute. So maximum, you were on the deck for 2 minutes. And then if nothing else, even if you were just about to snap it on, at the end of that extension, they were like, break, stand up, and you're like, oh. But yeah, it was fun. So it was exciting for like the people that wasn't like jujitsu savvy.
So obviously, I was on your YouTube channel not long ago, and you've got some great videos on their show reel. But there's a video on there of you training back in the day, and I've actually remember seeing this years ago. But I mean, you know, your kicks were something else. Have you always been so athletic? Because I mean, honestly, phenomenal kicking, phenomenal striking. Also, I guess kind of reminiscent of where you came from. That kind of karate freestyle background, you can kind of see that in the way that you kind of strike. Has that always been kind of like a thing for you, that athleticism?
I always come from like an athletic family. I mean, even before I did martial arts, before I even did stunts, you know, I remember my mum walking into the bedroom and me like crash diving off the top of the wardrobe onto the bed, and my mum went ballistic. I think she was more afraid of me breaking the bed, and we probably couldn't afford another one to fix. But yeah, I've always done something, whether it would be gymnastics at school or like running or football. I've always been swinging. I was always the kind of kid that could never sit still. I was always climbing. I was always doing. Sorry, I got an alert then. I've always been doing something, always like something physical, and it was just, as a hyperactive kid, I think martial arts or something like that was just a way to channel it and just like be on a path, so to speak.
So I guess that's the journey from there was to the Guinness Book of Records, wasn't it? Because you kind of you took part in Guinness Book of Records challenge, and you was it the most kicks in 1 minute? Was that what the record was?
Yeah, that's it. Was the most kicks in a minute. And to like touch back on like the kicking, I'm like, everyone always like now always thinks I'm a Taekwondo practitioner, or whenever they see my kicks they go, oh, Taekwondo. I'm like, yeah, I have done Taekwondo, but my kicks are karate. And it was from like the kicks is how I got into breaking the world record. We were training one Saturday morning, and was right next door to like an open air market, like a second-hand market that my mum used to drag me around as a kid. And this guy came in saying he was doing a martial arts demonstration, and he was trying to get all the local clubs like to take part in it. So, and that's when Bob and Tony had the idea of going to break the world record, and the record then was held by a guy named Tony Igo from Leeds, he's had some great fighters come out of his camp, and Tony and his brother are all just great lads. I've known them obviously years. So that's when we decided to go for the world record, and yeah, it was the most kicks in 1 minute. Yeah.
So was both legs, wasn't it? It was kicking with both legs, not just the same leg.
That's right. Yeah. There's Chloe Bruce has the most kicks in a minute on one leg, whereas I have the most kicks in a minute in general. So when we did it at the Pleasure Dome, which I remember telling you before when we spoke, the Pleasure Dome was actually it was the first ever venue of Take That, and I think like 10 people showed up. So yeah, I think Tony Igo's record was 213. So when Tony was training me for it, we ended up doing it and ended up getting 217 kicks in a minute. And then it was from that we had a Guinness representative there, and then that's when the BBC found out and they rang me up and was like, hey, do you want to come down and do this and try and break it again on Record Breakers? I was like, yeah, that's great.
So, with these achievements of competitive success, Guinness Book of World Records, but you still grew up in Huddersfield, and now you're kind of like one of the most established fight choreographers, stunt performers in Hollywood. And we've spoke about this tagline before, but it is literally from Huddersfield to Hollywood. How did that transition in your life start? Because I mean, it's not your average journey, is it?
No, especially coming, from where we come from. I mean, you're from like just over the hill. It's a different lifestyle where we come from. It's something I've always wanted to do as a kid, martial arts, but obviously like stunts as well. It was Star Wars that got me into stunt work. Coming from where we come from, it was never heard of, someone from Huddersfield being in a movie or being a stuntman or doing anything like that. It was, you were expected to leave school, get a trade, and spend the rest of your life there. But I remember one year just watching Star Wars, and everyone always thinks it's when Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia swung across the open chasm, but that wasn't the thing that swung it for me. The thing that swung stunt work for me was when it was just dead simple. Is when a stormtrooper ran in, and he just popped up his gun, and he got shot, and he just fell into a chasm, and it was just the way he fell. I was like, that looks awesome. I want to do that. And obviously, so whenever I was at school and they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was like, I want to be a stormtrooper. I didn't know there was such thing as a stuntman until probably like a couple of years later, and I think I was like 4 years old when I first saw Star Wars. And then it wasn't until like a couple of years later I saw the making of, and just this one clip I remember, and it was when Luke Skywalker, I think one of the bad guys, one of the Sith guys, like uses the Force and sends him through like a glass window, and it was showing the making of that. And I remember it was a guy named Colin Skeeping, who's a British guy on the register, and I still owe him work because of this, because I'm like, I want to tell him, like, thanks for like inspiring me. And all he did was he did like 6 back handsprings, and he just did a round up, and he went pop, 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 and he just launched himself through this glass window. And I remember the commentator saying, a stuntman uses a series of flips to generate momentum to go through the glass window. And it was the word stuntman that just resonated. I was like, that's what I want to do. So, you know, and then it was just from there, just trying to find out how to become a stuntman. And like I said, I was probably 6 years old when I saw that, when I saw Star Wars. And it wasn't until I was like 18 years old that for some reason we just got cable TV, and there was a TV show called Stunt Masters on it, and they had people from all over the world doing stuff, and it was on like super late at night, so I videotaped it, and I just used to sit there watching religiously, and you know, there were guys on there. There was you know, there was Vic Armstrong, there was Simon Crane, there was Terry Leonard, who most people won't know who Terry Leonard is, but in the stunt world, the guy's a legend. So if you remember Romance in the Stone, when the car goes off the waterfall, he was one of the 2 guys that went off the waterfall. He was the guy that went under the truck on Indiana Jones, you know, as a homage to Yakima Canutt in The Legend of the Lone Ranger. So I got to know all these legends' names, and then obviously, you know, Hooper was my Bible after Enter the Dragon. And that was it. And it wasn't until later on that I found out how to become a stuntman, and then that's when I went on that journey. Still competing, but I went on. That kind of took a little bit of a back burner, and then I started gradually edging towards trying to be a stuntman.
So what was that first? How did you get that first job then? What was that first one? Because obviously, like I said, there's not. Over if you lived in California nowadays, it's like, okay, there's quite a legitimate kind of career path, isn't there? But back then there was no clear way of going. Even though you were inspired by this documentary, it's like, how did you get that first foot on the ladder?
Yeah, you know, well, I mean, like back in them days, there wasn't social media, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't, you know, so it was almost like a mythical thing that you like, you know, it's almost like you were born on a film set to be a stuntman. So how it came about was, again, you know, Bob and Tony, Bob being the editor-in-chief of Martial Arts Illustrated, there was a small little box in a corner, and they were advertising for like martial arts extras for a movie, and it was only a student film that was gonna be made in Sheffield called Night Work, and Aidan Trimble was on it. That's how I got to meet Aidan. And basically, I rang the guy up, a guy named Orson, and he told me to come and meet him, and we met in Sheffield, just around the corner from the Ponds Forge sports center, where I ended up, like, ironically going there again later on doing the Gladiators tryouts. And I met this director, and we hardly spoke about the project because he was a big martial arts fan, and we just spoke about like me and you do when we get on the phone. We just chat martial arts for hours, and I didn't even end up having an audition. He was just like, do you know what? It's like all parts have been filmed. He said, but do you know what? I'm going to write a part in especially for you because we just get on so well. And that was how that was my first taste of like making movies and stuff like that. But my first proper taste was I was fighting in West Virginia, and Eunice had just done Gladiators, and they were doing Mortal Kombat 2 in Leavesden Studios at the time, and it was at Pinewood first, and then it moved to Leavesden. And the coordinator of that who knew Eunice from GoldenEye, said, hey, I need a bunch of martial arts guys to come in and audition, because obviously Mortal Kombat is a martial arts movie, so it was the sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So she rang everybody up. I mean, obviously there was like there was Alfie, there was Danny Harrison, there was a load of guys from the Lao Guard. She called me, she called just a bunch of us. And so we went down to Pinewood, we auditioned, and then we didn't hear anything about it. And it wasn't until I was fighting in West Virginia that I got a phone call at like 2 a.m, just asking them like, hey, filming starts so-and-so, oh, rehearsals start like X day, are you available? And I was like, damn straight I am. So I literally changed my flight to go from West Virginia to Manchester. I changed the flight to go from West Virginia to London, and then I got my good friend Gary Turner, who probably everybody knows, literally just dropped me off at Reeves Studios, where I had the World Championship belt on my bag, and I just walked in. I'm like, where do you need me? I'm like, I'm just ready to hit the deck. And that was my first taste into proper movie and like meeting British stunt guys, and then it just fueled the fire from there.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's so much to say about what you've just said. But I mean, one thing stands out really quickly is, Gladiators. It's a global institute, and especially in Britain back then. And obviously Eunice, who was one of the eventual winners as well. How did Gladiators come about then? I mean, that's a bit of a crazy thing to have done.
God, yeah. Saturday night, 6:15. That big G came on the screen, and you were just, and again, it was just the crowds. It was just that excitement of like, not like I think I can do that or I think I can win, which I never went into that thing thinking I can win that. It was just like, I want to do that. I want to swing from the giant pendulum. I want to climb the rock. I want to battle with pugil sticks and stuff. So it was never like going in there to win or going in there to get anything from it. It just looked fun. So I remember we just boxed at in like the Yorkshire and Humberside ABAs, me and my buddy, and we were just like, hey, do you want to try out for Gladiators? And he was like, yeah, all right. Anyway, I wrote off. He didn't get a call back. I got a call to be like, this is the time for the tryouts. And it was, so I was like, oh, okay. So I trained a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I didn't train. I went up to the school field. You had to do 800 meters in a certain amount of time. So I got my mum with a stopwatch, and I was like, just time me. And I blitzed this like 800 meter, like the 400 meter track twice. I didn't do it. I failed miserably. And I was like, oh, okay. But I could do the chin-ups. I could do all the other stuff. And I was like, you know what, I'll wing it on the day. I'll see how it goes. The others do it on a treadmill, and as you know, being on a treadmill is way easier than running on a track, because all you've got to do is propel your energy up, and the track does the movement for you. Whereas when you're running on flat, you've got to propel up and forward, so it's a hell of a lot harder. So me trying to do it on a running track actually helped me in doing it on the tryouts. So I go to Ponds Forge, I jump on the treadmill, and I say to the person running the treadmill, I was like, I don't know what speed I need to be. Just set it at the speed where I can do this comfortably, so that I'm not knackered if I go to the next round. And they were like, yeah, okay, I'll set it on this. The dude next to me was Martin Steele, the Olympian 800 meter runner, and he literally did it in like 1 minute 30 some seconds, and I'm like, I'm just like, he's just blitzing it. And I think I ended up, it was supposed to be like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes or something. I think it was 2.5 minutes. Ended up doing it like 2 minutes 20. Martin did it in like under 2 minutes, just absolutely blitzed it. So then we go to the next round, and then it was pull-ups. And it was like 10 pull-ups in a minute, but you couldn't just blast it out in a minute. You had to do a pull-up, hang for 5 seconds. Pull up, hang for 5 seconds. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then we move on to the next round, and we had a fight with some pugil sticks. Fun day, didn't think anything from it. And about a month later, I got a call. Hey, do you want to be on the show? You're going to go to Birmingham. You're going to be doing 2 weeks training at the indoor arena for all the games and the apparatus, and then we're going to film it over 2 weeks. That's if you get all the way to the end. And lucky enough, I got all the way to the final. But like I say, I never went in there with the expectation to win. I just went in there with the expectation to meet people and just have a good time. And that's what I did. And as I ended up getting to the final and losing, I think I probably let the I don't even think I let the final get to me. I messed up on the cargo net. My foot went through, and that was it. The other guy went flying over and beat me. But the funny thing is I've ended up working with that guy that beat me, Mark Mottram, who ended up going on to double James Bond, and we've ended up like, it was me and him that did the Achilles Hector fight. We did the fight in Clash of the Titans. We fought each other on Batman. When it was Liam Neeson versus Batman, when it was the Joker versus Batman. So for some reason, our paths from Gladiators just kind of went on this same trajectory, and we end up having a good time.
So he's almost like the Joker to your Batman. Is the nemesis that you have to keep beating.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because we have a giggle. He beat me at Gladiators, but every time we do stunt fighting, I end up beating him. And then he always brings it up. He goes, yeah, but I beat you at Gladiators. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Which kind of brings me firmly onto, obviously, Hollywood. I mean, you've been in so many amazing films. And it's always the stunt performers and the fight choreographers who you're not front of the camera. You're firmly, your job is to obviously not be. Obviously, sometimes, I think I mentioned this before, but I remember watching American Assassin not long ago, and I was like, I know that face. That's Buster on American Assassin. So sometimes, obviously, you come front of camera, in a visual acting role, but half the time you're doubling for one of the performers. So where do you start with this? I mean, what are your fondest memories of some of these major films? And which ones are the standouts for you?
God, it's like to go back to like fighting. People always go, who was your toughest opponent? And you go, well, they all were, because they all had something to offer that could potentially beat you. So to say like anything that stands out is almost like, it's kind of like lessening what I've done, because even the smallest stunts demand like your utmost attention, because that's where it's the ones where you think this is easy. It's the ones where you'll, like I say, I was saying before, it's the ones where you break your leg. I mean, I was doing a reaction on Terminator, and I'm like, and all it was just a simple reaction, and I took the reaction, momentary lapse of concentration, my foot went in the wrong place, my knee buckled, my femur broke, and that was it. And all I was taking was just a right hand. So they all stand out. But oh God.
I guess the question probably then should be, the films that are really big that people will know. It's like, obviously we're thinking Batman, Troy. These iconic films, aren't they, that people obviously, they'll know Brad Pitt, they'll know Christian Bale, but obviously unless they're an avid person who follows the stunt world, they're not going to stick through the credits and go, oh, who's the stunt quad? Who's the fight choreographer? And that's the thing, isn't it? Because you were in both those films. How was it like then being on Troy? Because that was obviously a big fight scene for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, Troy was great. Troy was my first time on a core team. My first time being in the central hub of seeing how everything gets put together. We got brought in months in advance, like 3 months before filming even started, to put together all these fight scenes. And the first fight scene that we put together as a fight team was the Achilles Hector fight. So that was a real big deal, because I'm like, wow, this is it's the Rocky versus Drago, the Clubber Lang. It's the fight at the end. It's the one that everyone's going to be talking about. So it was, putting together that was awesome. And then flying out to LA to then teach it to Brad, so he could learn it with his trainer, to then fly back. And it was a very, very surreal moment to be able to be exposed to that lifestyle. And another one to say what was an iconic moment was the first time I put the bat suit on, because what they did is they turned me around, they put it all on, and you're just putting on for lack of a better term, just another costume. And and it wasn't until they turned me around to the mirror and I'm like, there you go, how does it feel, how does it look? And I was stood looking at Batman, and I'm like, this is mental. Especially having a Batman shirt as a kid, and then just turning around and seeing yourself as Batman was unbelievable. So it's seeing yourself in them icons. It's like anyone that puts the Spider-Man suit on, or anyone that puts the new Bat suit on, or anyone that puts like the Zorro outfit on. You know, all these iconic that, you know, my buddy's Thor's double, and it's like to be able to put these superhero costumes on. It really brings out the child in you. Like, you can't help but have a smiling face still. You know, we all do big stunts. We all do the stuff that we expect to do when we get in the film industry. The big fight scenes, the explosions, the high falls, being on getting blown through a wall. But it's just equally as awesome when you put on a superhero costume and you get to be that superhero and still jump off buildings, fly through walls, do all these amazing fight scenes. So it's like I can't ask for anything better. So to ask like to stand out is like some of the big stunts I've done that you go, wow, that's going to be immortalized on screen is the main thing. You know, like what we do is going to live forever. Long after we've gone, you're still going to be able to look back and see that.
So obviously Batman, we can move on to Batman a second then. That had some big scenes in it, didn't it? So what were the big stunts that you had to perform on Batman from the films?
Gosh, there was a lot of wires on that, a lot of high stuff. A good few from the Batman trilogies was I remember getting set on fire by the Scarecrow and having to jump out the window, and I was on a line because I was on fire, which means that I couldn't land into like a box rig on fire or an airbag on fire because I'd just set everything on fire. So jumping out 60, 70 feet, fully ablaze, that was great. When he fires his grappling hook to the train that's going to Wayne Enterprises, that Ra's al Ghul's like gonna blow up. And then getting pulled, because we filmed it in a place called Cardington, and Cardington, a little bit of history, is it's like a quarter of a mile long, and it's like 200 feet high, and it's that big that I think it's where the Hindenburg flew from, or where it was built and exited. They said that the Titanic can fit in there with only 6 foot of it sticking out the back. That's how big that place is. So they built the whole of Gotham City in there. So one of my favorite stunts is they put a huge like travel rig, like a motorized winch travel rig, and they hoisted me up 30 feet in the air and just zipped me about 30, 40 miles an hour through the streets of Gotham as if I'm attached to a train on like the monorail. And I smashed through bridges, I smashed through trucks, I smashed through everything, and I would go, and then they'd be like, reset, and then they'd just send me back, put me down, have a rest, and they'd be like, going again, then they'd winch me up, set me off again, while they reset all the bridges to smash through. So that was fun, and it's just, and then on The Dark Knight was probably one of my favorites stunts I ever did. It was the scene where Batman is on top of the building, and he's listening in to a businessman, jumps off the building, he swoops in and smashes through the window and then extracts the guy. So the jump off the building we were going to do in Hong Kong, but for some reason the Hong Kong government wouldn't allow us to do it. So we tested it in Chicago, and the test was I was stood on top of a building 450 feet up in the air, and I was attached by a 300-foot line to a helicopter that was hovering above the streets. And then what I had to do is I had to do a swan dive as if I'm Batman, and then pop my wings open, and then once I hit the end of the line, I swoop up as if I'm flying. So standing on top of a building, watching a helicopter in front of you, and seeing that line come all the way back to you, and then when they shout action, you have to dive, and you're doing like a 150 foot swan dive, hoping that rope's going to catch you, and then swooping up. It was just like, it was like the most insane fairground ride that you're getting paid to do. That to me was that's always been a memorable one.
I mean, it's funny listening to it. It's like half of me thinks Buster Reeves has the coolest job in the world, and then half of me thinks Buster Reeves has the most scariest job in the world that I would never do. So First of all, is it the coolest job in the world? Because the way you're talking about it, it certainly sounds that way.
Oh, it's the best. You know, coming from like, you know, I'm a bricklayer and stonemason by trade, and you know, when that dried up, I went to dig roads and laid tarmac, you know, and then from, you know, like you said, from Huddersfield to Hollywood, it's the best job in the world. You get to travel the world and meet the best people, and it's, you know, it's and you get to meet the best of the best, which is awesome. Whether it be martial arts guys or whether it will be car drivers, you know, I've worked with the Stig from Top Gear. You know, he's become a really good friend of mine. You know, when you work with the military guys, you're working with like some of the best guys in the world. You know, we like on the last show we had you know, we had a guy from the Special Boat Service on there. I've got friends of mine back in the US who are SEAL Team 6 guys. I'm like, you get to train with the best guys, and what more could you ask for? It's amazing.
Well, following that, then, do you ever get to think, God, that stunt's crazy. I'm like afraid to do that. Do you ever doubt yourself, or do you have those fears, or are you just like, I'm like fearless now?
I have a healthy, I won't say a healthy fear, but I have a healthy respect for what could go wrong. But I never, for me, I'm more afraid for someone else doing a stunt, especially one if I'm coordinating, and it's not because of anything bad. It's just that it's like I would literally be destroyed if somebody got hurt on one of my shows. You know, and like, because you just want everyone, you know, everyone's just making a living. So I'm more fearful, even for something so simple. You know, I will still go up to the performer, I will give him a big hug, and I'll be like, be safe, I'll see you on the other side. And it could just be a stair fall, but I just want to let them know that, like, I'm doing my best to look after you. So when I did a stunt, I never worried about me, but I understand now what that coordinator was going through. Like me jumping off the building in Chicago, I'd have been an absolute wreck, even if, you know, just because there's always that element that you could get hurt, and I have been hurt on shows, you know, and it's through no fault of anybody's. It's just the nature of the industry. You know, we're there in case we get hurt, not so we can get hurt. You know, if we get hurt, we just get replaced. If an actor gets hurt, production shuts down, which is what happened on the Tom Cruise movie when he broke his ankle. You know, things just happen. But I never used to get scared. I used to have that healthy adrenaline rush of like, you know, this could go wrong. I've got to be on my A game. But I'm more fearful for other people doing stunts. Like even when I was a performer and I was spotting someone, I was always worried for them. I think that's just my kind nature.
So like you just mentioned, then you've worked with all these actors. I mean, you must have this little black book filled with like the most famous people in the world. What's it like working with all these actors like Brad Pitt, obviously? I mean, who else are the major actors that you've worked with them as a double or as a coach?
Yeah, work like yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with like some of the biggest names in Hollywood, and you know, and everybody comes into the stunt area just as a blank canvas for us because we're teaching them our craft. It's like if we were to go into the actor studio, we'd be a blank canvas because we're stepping into their world. So through confidence building and just techniques and like them realizing that we're at the top of our game, it's almost like they have, I wouldn't say like a respect, but there's a mutual respect there, so that when they come in, they're treated normal because we don't pussyfoot around because we're there to keep them safe and we're there to teach them, you know, like stunt work for lack of a better term. So when we go on set, they know that they're safe. So there's like a mutual admiration / appreciation for what we both do, like for what they do and for what we do. So they come in and it's, you know, and I think also as well, I think they just love us because we have to treat them normally, that they almost feel like a little bit of normality because, you know, when you got somebody like the Brad Pitts, the Tom Cruises that can't walk out in the street without being mobbed, or even like the studios and stuff like that, they come into our space and they're like, God, I can just be me. I mean, I remember when Heath Ledger came in and he saw like some of the training equipment and you just saw like the release. He's like, he's like, "Wicked, you've got that!" And he just ran, and you could see he was just happy to be himself in like in a safe space, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Heath Ledger, and a lot of these guys, like Tom Hardy, Brad Pitt, they're all athletic themselves, aren't they? And like you said,
Yeah.
if they do their own stunts, then the insurance companies will have a freak out. But I'm guessing they're all pretty capable in their own rights, especially after you've coached them to, because they all look like they're in shape. And I know Tom, especially, from his involvement in martial arts in the UK, really into martial arts outside of filming anyway.
Yeah, Tom was. They all, yeah, like you said, they all have a high level of physicality to begin with, so it kind of makes our life easy. Tom was a good dude to train with on the Dark Knight Rises because he'd just come from Warrior, so he had all the martial arts guys. So he would come in with his boxing gloves, his shins, and we'd hit pads, and it was like it got to a point where we're like, dude, you're gonna have to get out because as much as we'd love to train, we've still got work to do, like putting all these fight scenes together. So yeah, they've all got like a level of physicality to bring, and we channel that into whatever it is that we're going to teach them.
So going forward, then, I mean, I don't know how much you can talk about where you are right now, but what you're doing right now, and what have you got any projects lined up for going forward?
Yeah, I'm actually in Canada right now working on a show. It's a TV adaptation of a book that was made into a movie, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is just yet, because I've signed an NDA. It doesn't have a working title, so anybody can look it up. I haven't put my name on the credits on IMDb yet, but I'm sure I'll put it up soon, and then people can look it up and see what it is. But it's a movie that has a lot of fight scenes in it, a couple of car crashes and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be on Amazon at the end of the year.
Now, you're an award-winning stunt performer, fight choreographer. What's left for you to achieve then? What are your goals that you've set for yourself? Do you see yourself continuing with fight choreography, or do you see yourself, maybe I would like to move into directing? What are your personal goals then going forward?
Yeah, I've won the Screen Actors Guild Award. I've won a Taurus World Stunt Award. I was nominated for an Emmy. So to win one of them would be nice for stunt coordinating. The last show I did, Treadstone, I got to direct all the action and some of the acting, which was awesome. And I really enjoyed that process, and I would like to explore that path a lot more, the directing path. I still enjoy doing stunts. I still enjoy choreographing. I still enjoy coming up with new and inventive ways. Like you mentioned American Assassin, the director wanted a certain shot that not a lot of people have seen before and no one knew how to do it. And it was basically, he wanted to see somebody physically get run over by a car. And we were like, that's fine, we'll drive it, we'll hit the bonnet, we'll smash the windscreen, and we'll pop up. He goes, no, I want to see him go under the car. And I'm like, ooh, interesting. I was like, all right. So we were coming up with all these things. I was researching, like the Indiana Jones, mentioning again Terry Leonard, where they dug a trench out so that he was a little bit lower than the ground, but there was a safe space above him that he could crawl down. We started looking into do we raise the road a little bit, and then as he runs, he falls over and the car just runs over him. I was looking at the Band of Brothers when the guy got run over by the tank. It was a pit. It was a foam pit that he could lay on top of, and then as the tank ran over him, it just squashed him in the foam. And then as the tank ran, I mean, that was a ballsy gag, I have to admit, having a tank run over you. So then, and it wasn't until I saw the magicians Penn and Teller, they got run over by an articulated lorry, and I was like, how did they do that? And I was like, all right. So I researched it, and what I did is I got the special effects team to make the undercarriage of a car. So when you were to look at the car, it looked like the undercarriage of a car. And I got them to make like the suspensions that just go up and down, and then I had them make foam wheels. So that took a little bit of a process, but in the end we got it. And then I got hold of a rolling road, like a treadmill, but it was and we made it look like a road. So then we weighted one side of the car, so it was a little bit light. We set the rolling road going, and the wheels were going, and we just threw the guy underneath, and he went under the foam wheels, and he went under the other wheel, and then popped out the back. And it was like, it's being able to invent stuff like that I really enjoy. But then it's also being able to invent that, but then also putting that on screen the way you want to see it. So, like I said, I still enjoy the stunt coordinating side and the creativeness of the stunt coordinating side, but I really love the shooting and the directing aspect of it, because you can come up with some funky stuff with the camera. So in a way, I'm just channeling my creativity from there to the directing side of it when I get chance, and I would love to explore that avenue a lot more.
So, I mean, it's crazy when you put it like that. It's like raising the bar, isn't it? It's like, okay, how can we... Because how many films have there been ever? There's obviously tens of thousands now, and it's like, well,
yeah.
A lot of people, they rely on CGI, don't they? They rely on, increasingly towards those things, and it's like the old school martial arts films were always about, okay, let's actually show this happening. So I'm guessing... Is that, and like you said, you mentioned Jackie Chan before. Jackie Chan was always raising the bar with his stunts, wasn't he? That he'd do himself. So I guess that's a big thing, really, just to see how far you can push that boundary.
Yeah, for sure. Which is one of the reasons why I love the Chris Nolan Batman films. They've moved on now to like more CGI, where the capes are CGI, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Whereas the one thing I loved about the Chris Nolan Batman films is CGI was used as it's supposed to be used, which was to enhance the scene, not make the scene. It's like now when you watch some of the superhero movies, it's like you're watching a cartoon. Even though the guys are doing it motion capture, they're doing the stunts in the studio in like the green screen suits and stuff like that. They're still doing it, but when you watch it, you can tell it's CGI. So as a stuntman, we love to do stunts for real. So when we worked on the Chris Nolan Batman movies and other movies since then, and before then, we love to be able to do a stunt, and secondly, we love to be able to see a stunt. There was a time there where everything was up close and personal and shaky cam and this, and as a stunt performer, you kind of like go, oh, I want to see it. But that's just from a selfish point of view. It's like the up close and personal just works for the story and the telling of it. But as a person in the industry who wants to see what they've done, you kind of want to step back a little bit. But yeah, it's I went off on a complete tangent there. What was the question again?
Oh no, we're just talking about pushing the boundaries of the stunts. I mean, I guess given everything that you've said as well, you kind of like, I'm like, listening to Buster sold me. I want to be a stuntman now. So, for anyone who's inspired now by yourself, think about yourself back in Huddersfield back in the day, and they want to make that journey. Maybe they want to be the next great UK stunt performer, fight coordinator, action director. What would be your advice to them now in order to get on that ladder, that journey?
It's it's 2021 now. It's the digital age. Everybody's got access to a video camera, whether it be on your phone or you've got an actual camera. Everyone's got access to a gym. You've got access to the internet now. It's like, if you're interested in it, I would say, do you know what? Get in the gym, stick a fight together. Just start playing around. Start getting used to the camera angles. Put some stuff up online, and you never know. Somebody like myself might see it and go, well, that's good. And like how me and you first started calling, it was a private message on YouTube that I got the notification, and then I emailed you, and then this is how we got talking. So it's like maybe start doing that online. But if you want to do it legit, then I would say, write to your local union, For me, it was equity in the UK. In America, it's the Screen Actors Guild, and ask them how to do it, and they will steer you in the legitimate right reason. A great example of like putting things online is Damien Walters. He just used to do stuff for fun, and now look at him. He's on Bond movies. He's on all kinds of stuff. People bring that, and it's like I said, it's the digital age. When we grew up, we didn't have that. But nowadays there's so much more access to do that. Everything's just at the touch of a fingertip. If I wanna, I can go on YouTube and type in whatever I want, and I can find it. Or I can go online. So it's like grab a bunch of buddies, find a fight scene that you like, replicate it, shot for shot, so you understand the process. But then, just because you do that, I would say if you are lucky enough to jump on a film set, take that step back and learn the craft that you want to learn. And just because you're the big fish in a small pond in your gym and you put together all these fight scenes, don't necessarily mean that you're a fight coordinator or a stunt coordinator, because there's a certain element. Everything's safe in a gym. You can spank as hard as you want on a sprung floor, but there's certain techniques to be able to do it, to apply it to a film set, So it's like if you come into that world from the YouTube world, listen to the guys that do it properly. But that's the best advice I can probably give for the guys now, is just stick it out there online and see where it takes you.
And is that the same for juniors as well? Because I don't know if there's such a thing as a junior kind of action extra or stunt performer. How does that work for under 18-year-olds? Is it the same process?
Pretty much, yeah. Same. I mean, to get on the stunt register, you've got to be a minimum of 18. Just I think because there's child labor laws and stuff like that. But before we'd grab a small adult to double a child. But nowadays, there's all these amazing kids that are gymnasts or free runners, or there's amazing martial arts. Kids are amazing. We talk about setting the bar in the stunt world. These kids now, I mean, there's that Simone Biles that's just landed that unbelievable gymnastics thing. It's like, kids nowadays are just they're setting the bar. So if there's anything we need to do for a kid, we'll either get a small adult, or we'll actually pull a specialist in and we'll use them. Because it's their world. It's like if you need a driving job, you'll pull in the best drivers, you'll pull in the best martial artists. It's like sometimes if you can't get what you need on the stunt register, you have to seek an outside source. So yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of juniors that I know that are like crazy wanting to do it, and I'm like, I have no idea how an under 18-year-old gets into it. So same thing then. I just post out videos, social media, and do it the same way.
I mean, you never know. You might get like a remake of the old Bugsy Malone movie where it's all kids. But like all joking aside, the movie Pan, that was all kids. So there's only so many small adults around that can double kids. So if there's kids that are like, I mean, I wish I had access to this when I was a kid and I was doing martial arts, because I'd have been all over the place on YouTube doing fight scenes and stuff, with my mates, doing the all like. But yeah, there's always a call for kids. You've just got to make yourself available, and it's that out of sight, out of mind type thing. If I don't know you're out there and you can do that, I don't know you're out there and you can do it.
Well, I don't have any special qualities, but I'm gonna try and pull on the fact that I know you. That one of these days I want to be an extra, getting shot in some film somewhere. So it's on my bucket list. Maybe one day I can appear in something as someone getting hit or in the background. But I'll have to work.
If I'd have known you back in the American Assassin days, you could have been one of the guys in the martial arts gym when I was the instructor.
Oh, you know what? That would have been awesome. For everyone listening or watching now, you're going to have to keep reminding Buster that he said that he would get me in a film at some point. So it's all recorded. It's all official.
I won't forget. It's documented.
It's all documented. It's all official. There's no getting away from it now. Well, Buster, it's been so amazing to speak to you. I'm, like I said early on, right at the start, I love speaking to you. It's so amazing, and I'm sure everyone listening or watching has really enjoyed it as well. And you've had such an amazing career, and it's so exciting to see you continue with that. Again, you know, it's an inspiration to not only people in the UK from our neck of the woods, but you know, in the industry whatsoever. So I really appreciate your time. It's been amazing having you on.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoy our time, whether it's on this or whether we just chat over the phone. Just I really enjoy talking to you, Stuart. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And for anyone who wants to find out more, get in contact, you've got a YouTube channel, haven't you? I think is that your only social media? I was going to say, is that your only social media?
It is. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, I'm toying with the Instagram. I was on it before, and I just couldn't do it. I was in a different place back then. But I'm toying with getting back on Instagram. But right now, I just have a YouTube channel that I post workouts when I can be bothered. But yeah, just get in touch with me via that, and I'll always try and answer or like reply to anyone that gets in touch. I'm always willing to chat to people.
And you have to go and watch that YouTube channel. It's got the most amazing show reels on. And like I said, that video of Buster training back in the day is still to this day one of my favorite videos to watch. It's an awesome workout and kicking. I love your YouTube channel. I think you should do more. I think there should be more on there.
Guys, I always feel weird doing it like at work, as like training. Like I'll wait till I get home and like blast a bunch out in the garage or if like no one's at work. But yeah, the old training video, the old body. There were some questionable methods going on there. But still, you know, I think my shoulders still haven't recovered from some of them beats from Mickey and Bob. But yeah, it put me in good stead for the work I'm doing now, because I've taken some spanks over the years that are probably like would have slowed your most normal people down. You know, so yeah.
Well, thanks again. Make sure, guys, go and check out Buster Reeves' YouTube channel, and I will see you on the next Inside Chat. Thanks, Buster.
No problem, mate. Thanks again.